All right, we are live.
What's up, team?
We're a little bit early. Looks like we have a grand total of 0 people on the call right now.
Perfect. That's what we're going for.
Totally.
Right?
Listen, now we got 2 people. Look at this. Hey guys, welcome to the stress management webinar. I'm actually really excited to be presenting this information today. I got my very good friend Nick Palladino here with us.
And I'm totally stressed about giving a stress management speech. So this is perfect.
I need you to relax, man. Big time. Oh, this is classic.
It stresses me out more than anything.
All right, so if you guys can hear us and see us, here's what I want you guys to do. In the chat box, I see there's 46 of you guys already on the call, which is awesome. So if you can, in the chat box, I want you to write, what is your name? No, don't write your name. I can see your name. Where are you from? And what form of diabetes are you living with, if you have any type of diabetes? What's your name? What form of diabetes? So let's put that in the chat box. See what we got in the room today. Got Carol from Staten Island. Debbie, she can see and hear us, which is awesome. She's from Wisconsin. Debbie, she's got type 2. Teresa's from Michigan, type 1. Lori from Las Vegas, type 2. A lot of familiar faces here. I like this. Mark, type 2. Cincinnati. Jerry, Cincinnati, type 2. Sharon, type 2. Woo!
Cool. This place is jamming up.
I know.
Sweet.
I can't read this quickly. All right, this is awesome. We got 81 of you guys in the room already. This is awesome. This is great. Stephanie from Toronto, type 2. Carol, type 2. Minerva, type 1 from Houston. Diana, how you doing, Diana? She's from the Canary Islands. I love it. Diana, you are awesome. You're one of my favorite people in the world.
Is my mom on there? Can you see Terry yet?
Yeah, maybe.
She's like, I'm going to watch and critique and judge. That's what she told me.
That's what my mom does too. She'll call me after the webinar. Yo, you did such a good job. It's awesome.
She's the only one that shares my Facebook stuff. It's great.
Really? Hey, that's what moms are for, huh? Jill is from Los Angeles, type 2. Judith, Judy and Ken from Ohio, type 2. Very cool. All right. We got 92 of you on the call so far. This is great. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to kind of run through the whole gamut of things today. We got, for those of you who are new, perhaps some of you know me. My name is Cyrus Kambata. I have a PhD in nutritional biochemistry, living with type 1 diabetes. I'll go into my story a little bit. This right here is a very good friend of mine. This is Nick Palladino. He's a stress management guru. This guy wrote the book on stress management, and he has personally coached me. And
if that doesn't tell you how good I am, then nothing will. If I can coach Cyrus, I can coach anybody.
Amen to that. No question. So today we're going to be going over a lot of stress management related issues, and Nick is really good at sort of like myth busting and teaching you a very effective method for managing stress. Mm-hmm. So this is, I'm glad that you guys are all here.
Cool.
So
we give it like 1 or 2 more minutes, and we're actually going to start this with a brief meditation. So let's give it another minute or 2, and then we'll start with a nice, easy, gentle meditation to get right into some stress management techniques out the gate.
Definitely. So here's another question for you guys, right in the chat box. If you meditate already, if there's some sort of mindful practice that's in your life already, write the word yes in the chat box. If there's no meditation, no mindfulness in your lifestyle right now, then just write the word no. I'd love to see what kind of audience we have here.
Oh, there's Mom. Terry from Windsor. She's on there.
Terry. We got a lot of yeses here. Yes, yes, yes. Lori, yes. Susie, yes.
Great.
Kinda. No, no. Lisa, no. Karen, no. Pam, no. Shelly, yes. Sandy, no. Terry. Oh, my God. So many people. Diane, no, no, no. Okay. Oh, we got a yoga and meditation teacher in the room.
Cool.
Lar, nice. Good work. Stephanie does guided meditation. I can quiet my mind to meditate on my own. Oh, that's
perfect.
That's one that Nick's great at. Okay.
Cool. So should we get into some guided meditation just to start?
Let's do it.
Cool. So we'll keep the video on for now, guys. After the meditation, we're actually going to switch over to a PowerPoint doc. But what I want everyone to do right now before we meditate is we're going to do what I call a before and after. So if you got a piece of paper, go ahead and write this down. If you don't, you can just put it in your phone or also just in your mind.
Get out a piece of paper right now and write it down. Very important.
You do a T-chart. On the left side, put before. On the right side, put after. Okay? And then on the way down, you're going to put 4 words: emotional, physical, mental, and energetic. Okay? And now from 1 to 10, I want you to go ahead and rate each of those categories, 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest. So if you're feeling mentally like that you're like a 2 right now, I want to put mental and then the number 2. After we meditate, you're going to do this again, and we're just going to see if we can get the group to shift from maybe an overall 2 or 3 to a 6 or 7, something like that. So again, emotional, physical, mental, and energetic on the left. And
Okay.
Cyrus has got that.
So this is kind of what my paper looks like right here. We got before and after, and then emotional, physical, mental, and energetic. So if you guys can kind of copy something like this, what I want you to do, what Nick was saying, is write a number here, scale of 1 to 10.
1's low, 10's high.
Yep. Okay, so.
All right. And out the gates, don't judge this. Whatever comes up, just put it down. There's no right or wrong answers here. We're going to do a 2 or 3 minute guided meditation, and then we'll just see if there's any effects in the group afterwards. Cool? All right, everyone take a minute to do that, and then we'll get going with the meditation.
And we're writing down our emotional, physical, mental, and energetic
state. Current state.
Current state. So the higher the number,
the better you feel.
Got it. Okay.
All right. Cool. All right, sweet. So let's go ahead and start with that. So to start, I want everyone to go ahead, close your eyes, and you're going to sit up nice and tall in your chair. Take a big, deep inhale in through your nose. And go ahead, take a nice, big, open mouth exhale. Wiggle your jaw, relax your face. And then start here by finding the breath that feels right to you. Okay, so not too fast, not too slow, but just right. And then you'll know you found the breath that's right for you when you begin to experience a little less tension and a little more ease in your physical body, in your mind, in your energy. And don't worry about forcing it. You'll find the breath that's right for you because it's the one that's right for you. If you're having a hard time with this, try doing less. Drop any goal, drop any expectation around what you're going to learn or how you should feel. And instead, just start to turn inward. And then notice, how do you feel physically? How's your breath sound? How's your breath feel? And then check in with your mind. How are you thinking? How are you talking to yourself? Start to turn away from everything going on in your external world and start to turn inward. And just truly take a moment. How do you feel right now? Take these next 5 breaths here to breathe as smoothly, as effortlessly, as easy as you can. There's no getting this right or wrong, just you and your breath. 5 smooth breaths on your own. All right, everyone take a big deep inhale in through your nose. And then take a nice big stress relieving open mouth exhale. Release anything in your way. Cool. All right, sweet. All right, so now go ahead and on the other side of your column, write your afters. So energy, emotional, physical, mental, and energy. And just notice if there's a shift. And a shift could go up or down. Don't judge your shift. So take a moment, write that. And then in the box on the right, just let us know if you feel better or worse. Just kind of get a general idea of how that affected the group.
You know, one of the things I noticed when we do that is that if my phone buzzes for whatever reason, it's like you go from this state of being totally focused to like attention is split.
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's like sometimes when it goes away, it's hard to come back.
That's all meditation's teaching you at the end of the day. It's like squirrel, right?
Right.
It's like I'm talking to you, squirrel.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to reduce that at the end of the day. That's all we're trying to do with it. I don't know anyone that can stop that, but our goal is to reduce that and do less of that so we can be more focused, more present, more of the time, not all of the time.
It's amazing in the world that we live in right now. There's so many things that are constantly pulling at us and, you know, and distracting us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it can be your phone, it can be your own thought pattern, it could be someone knocking on the door. You know, there's 1,000 different tools on the internet that are constantly popping up and
100%.
You know, just taking your attention away. It's just, it can be frustrating.
Yeah. And I think that's why what I want to teach everyone today is how to apply these techniques in an urban lifestyle.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in teaching people that are out living in a cave. I want to be talking to people that are at a corporate job, you know, that are working in healthcare, that have their own businesses, people that are like, I've got a lot going on, I'm struggling to find balance. That's what we're going to teach you today is tools, how to find balance in an urban modern life. This isn't going to be esoteric stuff that you can't apply. These are like, how do we build your toolbox so when you need a specific tool, you can pull it out and use it. That's one of our biggest goals for today. So
absolutely.
Cool. How's the group looking?
Okay, so looks like we got a lot of, you know, a little bit better, calmer and more relaxed. From 6 to 8, but energy dropped to 4. I wanted to go to sleep. Yeah,
cool, perfect.
Common.
Yep,
very common.
Cool.
A little bit less tired and less tired.
Before we go to the deck, the biggest thing I see on here now is people saying a little better, you know, kind of better. That's perfect. We're not going for a 2 to a 10. That's just not going to happen. But what we are looking for is a 2 to a 4.
Incremental progress.
A 2 to a 2.5. Can you start to create gradual progression over time? That's what we're going for. So if you've got this thing in your mind that you've got to get from feeling like crap to feeling fantastic, I'm going to give you permission right now to drop that and just notice, do you feel better? Yes. Perfect. Do you feel worse? That's okay too, by the way. All right, so we're going to switch over to the deck and give you guys a whole stress management presentation here.
Cool. Okay, so here we go. All right, so I'm going to go full screen on this guy. Hopefully you guys can see this whole process. Let's start at the top. That might be helpful.
So we'll start with what our goal is for today is, and we already kind of touched on it. Our goal is to give everyone on here some tools and give you some tools for your toolbox to help you deal with your stress, reduce some anxiety. And then also for those of you with diabetes out there, we're going to talk a lot about emotional eating and how we can start to use stress management meditation as a tool to, what's the right word there, Cyrus, to kind of reduce the emotional eating that can go along with diabetes. And you can touch on that better than I can.
Absolutely.
All right. So next one. All right. So here's why you should stay until the end. You're going to learn a couple things in this process. You're going to learn one of my stress management frameworks, something you can take with you right away and start to use. We're going to talk about, and you're going to learn about how to identify stress and also how to reduce your stress. And then we're also going to talk about how to learn to improve your health and your energy. To me, they go hand in hand. Okay. Here's where you're going to want to stay on until the end. Get that going. Okay. At the end, we're going to talk about a program that I have that I'm offering. It's all about stress management and self-care. There's going to be a big discount on that, about 50%. Also, if you stay until the end, we're going to do Q&A for as long as it takes. So any kind of questions you have around stress management, around emotional eating, around health, self-care practices, Cyrus and I are going to stay on the end for at least 30 to 45 minutes answering Q&As. So that's a big reason why you want to stay on until the end.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right, Cyrus, why don't you go ahead and
yeah.
there.
All right, and then one thing that we're going to do also at the end of the webinar is there's a special offer that Nick has now for his new coaching program that you guys you're gonna see the design of the program. It's very similar to the design of the Mastering Diabetes program. Nick is one of my gurus. He's been doing this, he's been coaching stress management for years now, and I've personally benefited from him. And there's so many of the techniques that he's going to be showing you guys today can truly, like, just each one of these techniques by themselves can truly revolutionize your experience with the outside world. And, there's a lot to take in, so let's try not to get overwhelmed and, just take one piece at a time.
Cool. All right, so two things that I want you to get. I'm going to show on these next two slides. We're going to go more into it. The first thing I want you guys to take away from this training today is stress is not your enemy. Okay? We're all told that in the media. We're all told that what you see in the yoga world and the meditation world. But stress is not your enemy. I'm actually going to challenge everyone to see today that stress is actually your friend, and it's actually something you can partner with. Cool. Next thing, I want everyone to hear this is that being stress-free is not the goal. Okay? I don't believe that's possible. And I'm a stress management coach, and I'm going to come out and say right now that I don't think being stress-free is possible. I would even go a step further and say that I wouldn't even want that in my own life.
Absolutely.
Okay? So we're going to go into all those. So I want you to drop those. Drop any expectations around getting good at stress management, getting good at meditation, and also drop any goal of being free of stress. All right?
Well, where did this idea of being free, stress-free come about? Is that just something that's like perpetuated in the media?
Yeah, I mean, excuse my language. I think it's probably just marketing bullshit. To tell you the truth, you can sell that. You can hype up being free of pain. You can hype up being free of stress.
Right.
You can't really hype up and sell. Okay, I'm going to learn you to have a better relationship with your stress.
Right. Yeah.
And start to enjoy it and start to work with it and start to learn from it. That's not as sexy.
Agreed.
You know, at the end of the day, that's why there's less money, there's less revenue on the preventative side of healthcare than there is on the back end side. And all you guys know that from Cyrus's work that we're trying to get ahead of the curve here and trying to get healthy and full of energy and stress free on the front side so that we're healthier on the back end. And to me, that's why it's not out there, is because it's not as sexy, and it's not as easy to sell.
True.
Yeah.
True. Good point. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. So the next hour, here's what you're going to learn. You're going to learn why stress is not your enemy. You're going to learn to start to identify it. Okay, like we already talked about, we're going to learn why being stress-free is not the goal. I'm also going to try to teach you how to decrease your stress immediately. And some of you, I'm going to bet that we've already done that just in that opening meditation. Okay? And then the last thing I really want you to see today is how to partner with your stress in order to reduce emotional eating.
Okay, so here's the question that we want you guys to answer right now in the chat window, okay? It's a very simple question, okay? What causes you the most stress in your daily life? Is it your boss? Is it your spouse? Is it your kids? Is it your commute to work? Is it the foods that you are choosing to eat or not eat? What is it in particular that is actually the source of your anxiety? Mm-hmm. Everybody has, something that causes them the most anxiety. So we want to know exactly what that is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No one's got the monopoly on pain. We're all going through something. Pressing questions out there. If there's anything that you really want us to cover today, and I'll go ahead and I'll answer one of those two right now if I see one that really sticks out.
Okay. So here's a lot of the responses that we see here. We see work, job and money, finances, my health, my job, work, job, not feeling in control. Chris, that's what he says. Melissa, money/diabetes. Libby, managing my own business. Okay, totally understand that one. Mm-hmm. Pam, work, money, weight. Okay, other people's stressful energy sets me off because I am an empath. Mm-hmm. That's a good one. David says health. Debbie says underlying stress, my health. Family issues, spouse from Mary Lou, relationships, all of the above, kids, family, myself, multiple responsibilities, my spouse, my health. There's a lot of commonality here. Mm-hmm. Caregiver for 3 family members. Maybe we can touch on that a little bit later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Well, those are populating. Let me touch on 2 of those that I see sticking out there. And the first one is someone said I'm an empath, like I'm highly empathetic.
Correct.
So Cyrus and you and I can relate to this because we work in a business and an industry where we're constantly with people and helping people.
Absolutely.
It can be dangerous when we start to get into empathy, and especially if you're a caregiver, especially if you're in health and wellness. I've even heard the word thrown around of empathy fatigue. And what that is empathy is this thing that we've learned where you see someone going through pain and you see someone having a hard time in their life. Empathy is the piece in us that wants to help that person and wants to prevent them from feeling pain and prevent them from being uncomfortable. Where empathy gets us in trouble is we then start to take on that energy. We start to take on those feelings, that pain, that guilt, whatever it is. I would challenge everyone out there to move themselves from being empathetic to being compassionate. Okay. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. Compassion is the desire for everyone to be free of suffering and pain. But compassion is the understanding that you can't do anything for anyone else. You can't fix anyone. You can't help anyone. You can't do it for anyone. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be curt, but I'm just being realistic where I can only inspire people. Cyrus, you can only inspire people.
Correct.
You can get people to show up, but you can't do the work for them.
Correct.
You can't make them eat a healthy diet.
Correct.
You can't get them to exercise.
Correct.
If you get wrapped up in that as the coach, your life is going to be extremely stressful because one day your client's going to say, man, I'm killing it. I'm doing great. The next day you're going to jump on the phone with them and they're going to be like, Cyrus, I'm miserable. My blood glucose is out of control. If Cyrus is stuck in empathy, he's going to set himself up for failure and being on a roller coaster.
Absolutely.
Okay, so if Cyrus, if myself, if you guys out there can learn to be more compassionate, so not wanting people to be in pain, but also allowing them to have their own process and allowing them to understand that they need to figure it out on their own. Doesn't mean you're not there for them, but it's up to them to figure out themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there. You've been there. I'm sure everyone else has been out there in the same exact way. So let's try to move from empathy to compassion. You can't do it for anyone, but you can sure as hell hold space for them and be there for them at the same time.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's this common saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't teach him how to drink, or you can't make him drink, right? It's the same thing, right? You can inspire, you can motivate, you can sort of push people in the right direction or lead them towards, a healthier state of being. But ultimately, it's their decision if they want to take that advice, if they want to actually improve their own personal well-being. And if they choose not to, then there's not really much that you can do.
No.
And it can be frustrating.
Correct. And then you just go back to compassion. You go, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're a person have their own experience. Who am I to judge them? And you just keep helping, you keep holding space. And someone just said boundaries on there. That's a perfect word.
Yeah, boundaries are very good.
The next one, relationships. To me, stress management at its core is about relationship. And it's about your relationship to the thing that's bothering you. So you see all these different things on here: money, spouse, running your own business, empathy, boundaries. Those aren't the thing that's actually causing the stress, okay? That's just the event that's happening. It's your reaction to the event. It's the space in between that is causing the stress. Okay, so your relationship to the event is actually where your work is when it comes to stress management. Okay, now again, that's not sexy. That's not the easy path. That's actually the harder path. But whatever it is that's going on in your life, your relationship to it is what defines your stress level or lack thereof, okay? If you resist something, it creates stress. If you don't resist it, there's nothing for it to resist against. There's nothing to create tension. And as a result, you don't create stress. Okay? So this is all about relationship to yourself first, and then about relationship to the external world secondarily. Okay.
Love it.
Cool.
This guy's a sage. I love it. Let's go back to the presentation here.
Okay. All right. So Cyrus, you're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about. Why don't you go ahead and jump on that one?
Okay. Oh, want to do this one? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, what a lot of you responded with, and what most people, if you go out to the population, just ask people, what is your biggest stressor? A lot of people will respond with some of the following that you see on the screen here. Some people don't even know where their stress is coming from. Right? They literally cannot identify their stress. It's just there, right? A lot of people have a difficult time finding balance in their life. And as a result of that, a lot of people end up with very poor digestion. And as a result of that, they have a difficult time sleeping. Sometimes they get very low energy. And so all of these things are related. And that's the thing that is really important to understand. And that's one of the things that I think is, I have learned personally from working with Nick, but also in just paying attention to the things that are causing me a little bit of anxiety in my life, right? Anxiety, I like to think of it as sort of like it's a row of dominoes, right? You start feeling the anxiety, and then all of a sudden it alters your sleeping pattern, which then affects your appetite, which then affects your ability to exercise, which then makes you more stressed, which then affects your communication, which then causes more anxiety, and then you're not as productive, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Totally.
All of these things are interconnected.
Yep. It's all connected at the end of the day. And I think that's why you and I work so well together, is because we both understand that nutrition, mindfulness, exercise, they're all part of the same whole.
Absolutely.
If one of them's off, it's okay for a little while, but it's not going to be too long before, if you ignore your nutrition, that you're going to start to feel the effects. You know, if you start to ignore your mental health, your sleep, your digestion, at the end of the day, you can only outrun those for so long.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. So Cyrus, why don't you go ahead and you're going to introduce yourself to the group, kind of give your credentials. I'll do the same, and then we'll dive into the meat of this and teach you guys the stress management framework.
Beautiful. So, I'll make this quick. I think a lot of you guys already know me, but for those of you who don't, my name is Cyrus Khambatta. I have a PhD in nutritional biochemistry. My clients, friends, family, everyone refers to me as the Mango Man because I am officially addicted to mangoes. I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at the age of 22 in college. I suffered super low energy. I lost my ability to exercise. I got depressed. I got anxious. My whole world got flipped upside down. Talk about stress. Mm-hmm. That was one of the most stressful times in my life because I didn't have one. I didn't have two. I had I got diagnosed with 3 autoimmune conditions within 6 months. The first one was Hashimoto's thyroiditis or hypothyroidism. The second one is alopecia, which is why I have no hair. And then the third one is type 1 diabetes. So you can imagine if you get diagnosed with multiple health conditions within a short period of time and you don't have a solution to any of them, you might go crazy, right? So I got to a point where I was really, really anxious and very frustrated. So I launched a personal research project and I started to understand maybe there's another way to actually eat because this low carbohydrate wisdom that my doctor had imparted into me was just a joke. It did not work at all. So I started to eat more whole foods. I increased my carbohydrate intake from fruits and from vegetables, and I severely limited my total fat intake. And over the course of the first 6 months, things changed incredibly well. I started to eat a ridiculous number of grams of carbohydrate per day. My insulin use came down. So even though I was eating more carbohydrate, my insulin use went down, which is not what anybody would expect. I was so excited. I had so much energy that I started riding my bike everywhere. And I kid you not, I ran 4,000 miles in the first 6 months. I started signing up for endurance races, and every single weekend I was out riding 80, 90, 100 miles. And for the first time in my life, I could control my blood glucose with the precision that I demanded of myself. So I saw all these awesome changes, and I decided to go back to school to get a PhD. So I went to UC Berkeley. I studied there for 5 years. I read every paper under the sun about insulin resistance and diabetes, and was able to really understand the molecular mechanisms underlying insulin resistance and how it actually complicates blood glucose control. So, here I am. I've reduced, shameless plug here. I've reduced my insulin use by 40%. I eat now, actually that says 700. I eat 900 grams of carbohydrate per day. I'm active every single day. I've increased my insulin sensitivity by 800%, almost 1,000-fold, almost 10-fold. And my A1C values are constantly between 5.4 and actually 5.7, and they've been that way for the past 6 to 7 years now. So I'm healthier than I've ever been, and I feel awesome.
Cool, thanks, Cyrus. So I'll take a moment here to introduce myself, and I want to talk less about who I am, but more about how I've gotten here to being a stress management teacher and a yoga teacher. And I started out just as a normal guy. I started my professional career in corporate sales and logistics, and it was everything I always wanted to be. And I always just knew I wanted to be the head of a company. I wanted to be rich and famous. And quickly, after about a year of being in the corporate sales, I realized I was just pretty much a big asshole and and stressed out of my mind. So my buddy asked me one day if I wanted to go to yoga with him. And I was like, yeah, man, I'll go. I'll check it out. I mean, I'm open to anything. And I went to yoga class with him, and I know it was the worst thing I've ever done in my life. I couldn't touch my knees, and it was just absolutely horrendous. And for some reason, I kept coming back, and I realized that yoga and meditation were really the only 2 things I had in my life that were starting to give me space and starting to give me a sense of kind of who I was. So I started to have some issues with working in the corporate world and also learning to be more mindful and less stressed. But I just kind of stuck with it and stayed in the corporate world, and I didn't leave. And actually, eventually, one night I was coming back from a corporate sales dinner, and I got mugged and I almost got killed by a couple guys. And I don't share the story with too many people. But it was one of the best things that's ever happened to me in my life. And the reason is The next day I woke up and I was sitting at my desk, and I just knew that I was lucky to be alive, and I knew that I could no longer ignore my stress. I could no longer ignore my path that I was meant to go on. So this horrible event actually was a catalyst for me leaving the United States, quitting my corporate job, and really studying mindfulness, meditation, yoga for about the last decade. So it's a great thing. That's why we just get off this thing of the compassion piece we talked about before. If it's important that people have their experiences, no one could help me at that point. I just had to go through those things. So I found some new mentors. And then for the last couple of years, I really struggled with this. I really fought with stepping into a role of being a teacher and being a stress management guru, like you've dubbed me, because I wanted to go back to the corporate world, and I wanted to go back to living this normal life that paid well, but at some point you can't keep not listening to yourself.
Right.
And I think a lot of people are probably on here because they're having a similar experience where something's wrong, they're not balanced, but they don't know why, but they know it's time to change.
Right. They just know that something needs to change, but having a difficult time understanding exactly what it is, and or if you know what it is, how are you going to actually change it?
Totally. It's not easy to get the tools. So that's why I'm here. I've had a moment when I in the last year or two, I just finally stepped into it and said, yes, people out there, we're all in pain. No one's got the monopoly on pain. We've all either got physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual pain or stress, whatever you want to call it. And owning that and saying, okay, it's time. I'm ready to put out these programs. Cyrus is doing the same. And we're really here today to give you guys tools and really here to share our journey and our path. And that goes back to the compassion piece, that if you and I can learn how to live lives that are less stressful, that have got some more joy, that have purpose, and that we can enjoy vibrant health like we do, then anyone can do it. If a guy that had type 1 diabetes can learn to master diabetes, if a guy that was a self-proclaimed egomaniac in the corporate world can become a yoga teacher and a stress guru, then everyone else out there, you guys have all the same abilities that we do. So we're excited to share some of these tools.
Yeah, there's nothing special about us. No. It's like you were saying earlier, it's about, and you can't control adversity. You can control your response to adversity.
Correct.
It's just that simple.
It's that simple. It's just not that easy.
It's that simple, but not easy. Amen to that.
Cool. So as you can see on the screen here, this is one of my stress management frameworks. And go ahead and feel free to write this down. And this framework comes from my philosophy that stress is not your enemy. So the first thing here is we need to, before we even get into number one, we're to write these two words down, or if you're listening, really listen to these two words. Stress management and becoming a master of your own life, your own emotional eating, becoming a master of diabetes. It comes down to two things for me, and that is awareness and choice. Now, before we can have choice, before we can start to step up and say, I'm ready to make a change, and here's how I'm supposed to eat, or here's how I'm supposed to take care of myself, you can't get to that point in your life, in your experience, until you develop awareness first. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So the point being is, that's why we use meditation as a tool. To me, meditation is a fantastic tool that we put into our toolbox. It helps us be more aware, more present, and more in touch with who we are. Okay? If you guys are out there struggling with diabetes, with emotional eating, with your health, the first thing is just to bring awareness to it and say, okay, wow, I'm ready to make a change. The second step is then to start to act and have choice. Okay? So step one of my process here, step one, I've already hinted at it, is you've got to identify your stress response, okay? So what's a stress response? A stress response is it's a physiological response to stimuli. It could be mental, physical, spiritual, emotional. For me, for example, if I get in an argument with my girlfriend, it's a tension headache in my forehead, right? Mm-hmm. So what's a stress response that you have around certain things? How about with diabetes? If you get worried about your diabetes, do you know your stress responses?
Yeah, when I get stressed about diabetes, I go internal and I stop talking to the outside world.
Okay.
I get really quiet.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So you take a look at Cyrus and I both. Now we both have awareness of our stress response, right? So that's just like the alarm going off. It's just a flag. Everyone out there is going to have your own responses. If you guys want to put into the chat what your responses are, go ahead and do that. We're all going to have similar ones and different ones. Okay, so the first thing about this stress response, one, it's necessary. It's what's kept us alive as humans for millennia. Okay? If we didn't have a stress response, all of our ancestors would have been eaten by a lion and we all wouldn't be here.
We would not exist. Yeah.
So you're damn right, stress is your friend. Okay, it's necessary, it's natural. Problem with stress is that the body doesn't know the difference from real stress, danger, and perceived stress, mental fear. It only understands stress. So if your boss comes into your office and rips your head off, your body thinks that it's a lion trying to kill you, right? You can see that's where chronic stress comes into play. That's where heart disease comes in, cortisol release, weight gain, all those kind of things, because your body thinks it's under attack. Okay, so got to start to understand how the nervous system works. And we have two nervous systems, right? One is the sympathetic nervous system, and the other is the parasympathetic nervous system. Sympathetic nervous system is often referred to as the fight or flight response. It's necessary, it's natural. We get into trouble as humans when we're chronically in this state. That's when our body isn't going to digest food. All of our blood is going to be in our extremities, not in our organs, right? And you can start to see, as Cyrus and I were talking about before, if you're in this constant state, your health is going to be deteriorating. Right? You're going to have a harder time with your diabetes. You're going to have a much harder time sleeping, digesting. All of this is connected into your nervous system, okay? So the parasympathetic system, that's also known as the rest and digest system. That's the feeling that you get after yoga class, after a massage, after doing something nice for yourself. Comes into play, right? So that's how you start to take control of your health, just by taking control of how you feel. Okay, so I'm telling you this because I want you to start to recognize your stress response. The calmer you are, the better you feel throughout the day, the easier you can understand that you're off. Does that make sense, Cyrus?
Absolutely.
You got a bigger gap. If you're always stressed, you can't tell that you're stressed, right? But if you understand the difference from being in parasympathetic and sympathetic, now you've got a fantastic tool to tell you when you're off balance.
Yeah, and especially when you're living with diabetes, I'm sure every single person with diabetes or pre-diabetes in the room has experienced this. You get stressed, something happens, right? Your boss says something, or your wife says something, your husband says something, and you get a little bit stressed, and then boom, one of the first things to go is your blood glucose, right? You try so hard to try and keep your blood glucose in control, but as soon as you get stressed, all of a sudden, boom, now you're in that fight or flight mechanism. Now your liver's cranking out a bunch of glucose, and before you know it, you have a glucose that's 200, and you're sitting there thinking to yourself, you got to be kidding me. What just happened, right? You didn't put any food in your mouth. It has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with your response to your external world, and just by changing the way that you respond, you can actually negatively affect your blood glucose.
So the sympathetic nervous system engages the liver to dump
100%
glucose into the body.
Yeah, because you get stressed, and then you release cortisol from your adrenal gland, which goes and knocks on the door of your liver, says, hey, liver, dump glucose now. And then your liver's like, hey, here you go, and dumps a bunch of glucose into your blood. You go check your blood glucose. It's 50 points higher than you want it to be. It's frustrating.
And then that's why people gain weight, is then the glucose gets stored. It doesn't get used.
Exactly. And then, that can also trigger a little bit more, emotional eating or the desire to want to put in more food. And then before you know it, you're taking on too many calories, and then boom, you got yourself a real problem.
I just learned something. I was having a moment.
I love it.
Okay. All right. Step 1, we got that. Step 2, once you realize you're stressed, then it's up to you to start to realize and identify what is your stress response trying to tell you. Okay. So your stress response is trying to help. So listen to it. It's not you against your stress. It's not you against your body. Like Cyrus was just explaining, you're on the same team. So help each other. So start to notice, how is it manifesting? Is it physical? Is it mental? Is it emotional? Cyrus, you said you shut down.
Yep. Right. Quiet.
I get headaches. I know for me, I get different stress responses depending on different things. So if it's fear-based, if it's money-based, I get pain in my hip from an old car accident.
Interesting.
Right? So then you can even start to get a little more subtle and go, okay, what is my specific stress response telling me, right? Because they're going to manifest differently depending on where they come from.
Absolutely.
Okay, so start to notice your specific responses to specific situations. Then start to ask yourself, can I accept what's happening? This is a really powerful tool right here, guys. If you can accept what's happening, and I don't mean that you like it, I don't mean that you're comfortable with it, but I mean, can you accept it? Then you stop the sympathetic nervous system from firing. You tell the amygdala that you're safe, that there's nothing to resist, and then you don't get that liver glucose dump as a result.
Right.
Right? So acceptance will set you free from stress. Whatever you resist will create stress. Whatever your relationship is to it that you're resisting, that's where you create stress. If you can accept what's happening in the moment, you won't create stress. Cool.
That's brilliant. It's you know, I'll be perfectly honest. Sometimes it's hard to accept what is happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to accept, you know, the situation or your response to the situation, and that I think can, you know, drive you crazy because you're sitting there thinking to yourself, I want it to be a certain way. I expect this situation to have this outcome, and it doesn't have that outcome, and that can be frustrating unto itself.
Yeah, and that's the fourth part, awareness and choice. One, just like you're saying, being aware of how you're responding. That gives you control. That gives you power.
Right.
The other part, though, you know, you and I have talked about this a lot, is you got to drop your expectations to the floor. You got to get rid of your expectations. You can't win the expectation game, you know. Do you mind if I use your mother as an example, Cyrus?
Use
Get
her.
personal?
Go for it.
So Cyrus's mom, a bit of a tiger mom, right? A little tough.
We love you, Mom.
We love you. Terry, I love you too. You're out there. But when you've got a mother, and we won't even talk about your mother now, just when you've got a tough mom, for example, if she's got these high expectations set for you, right? One or two things is going to happen. Either you're going to meet her expectation or exceed it. That's the best case scenario. But next time around, what happens? The bar gets raised. And then you get yourself caught in this loop, this expectation loop that I call it, where here's the expectation, you're overachiever, so you meet it. Next time the situation comes around, you got to do better in order to meet that expectation. Right? Or inversely, you don't meet the expectation, and then your parents, whoever, is upset with you. So as long as you're stuck in this expectation loop, you're screwed. You've lost the game. The most powerful thing you can do is drop your expectations to the floor. I'm not saying drop your goals. I'm not saying drop your standards, but I am saying drop your expectations of how the situation will happen.
Correct.
Unless you're a psychic, you don't know how it's going to end up. Okay?
Nope.
So if you got that skill, come teach me. I'd love to learn. That'd be great. All right. Step 3. Step 3 is, Step 3 is to take action. Okay? Now that you know you're stressed, you know what your stress response is telling you, now it's up to you. What are you going to do about it? Okay, this is where choice comes into play, Cyrus. Like you were saying, it's like, I want things to be a certain way. Okay, they're not. What are you going to do about it? Can you accept it? Do you need to make a change? Do you need to just leave? You need to quit, right? You need to go for a run. You need to go exercise. You need to go meditate. You need to go talk to someone. Whatever it is that you need to do that's specific for you, go do that. Okay? Be willing to give yourself what it is that you need in order to make a change.
Right. So you have like an action plan, and you're like, when this affects me negatively, when I get stressed, when I get anxious, this is my, you know, this is my response. This is my Band-Aid that's going to go fix this situation temporarily.
Correct. Take a deep breath. Relax. You know, go for a run. Doesn't matter what you do. Do whatever works for you. That's one of the most important things I could teach anyone on this call right here. You go back to the meditation we did. Find the breath that's right for you. That's a master teaching. Find the breath. Find the thing that's right for you in every moment. And that's going to put you in the best position to have less stress.
Absolutely.
All right. The last thing here is I want you to then thank your stress response. Okay. This is you accepting your stress. This is you telling your body, okay, I understand that you're not against me. I'm not against you. We're on the same team. We're the same unit. And your stress response is just trying to tell you that something's wrong. You're not listening. So the less you listen, the more it cranks it up. The less you listen, the more it hurts. The more pain, the more stress, the more anxiety is built. Be grateful for your stress. Be grateful that you alerted yourself that something was wrong. At the end of the day, remember, stress is powerful. It's a beautiful thing. It helps us adapt. It helps us figure out new ways to take on more. It helps us figure out new ways to grow. Right? Growth is painful. We all went through puberty, right? You know? So stress also allows you to eventually take on more with less effort. Just like your first day of work. You don't know what the heck you're doing. By year 5, you got it under control. Something that would have stressed you out on day 1, it's no longer a big deal. Stress management, mindfulness, meditation, it's the exact same thing. We'll end this piece with this. Those who believe they can and those who believe they can't, you're both correct. Managing stress comes down to choice, responsibility, and awareness. But I also think it's about being your own biggest fan. It's about being the person that you look in the mirror and you go, you know what, man, I got your back. The world's tough. Being human can be hard. There's already enough people out there that are telling us what we should do, setting expectations for us, trying to hold us down. The best thing we can do is be our own biggest fan, you know? Be our best friend.
Absolutely.
If you're not going to do it, then how do you expect other people to do it for you? Okay. Other thing is, start to move away from I'm stressed to understanding why you're stressed. Start to hone in and dive in there and understand, okay, what's stressing me out? What am I going to do about it? And then thank your stress. Okay? Cool. All right.
So the beauty is that, if you take this really seriously, it works like a charm. So, you guys, I've said this, but Nick is a really good friend of mine. I've known Nick for, 5 or 6 years at this point. And, when I first met Nick, he told me that he recognized that there were certain things about, my life and the way that I was interacting with the world that were, he recognized that it was a stress response. And I'm an open-minded guy. And I said, okay, cool. I don't really know that much about this whole process. Teach me. So Nick, personally one-on-one coached me, and he also helped my wife, Kylie. And in this process, he really transformed the way that I was thinking, the way that I was interacting with the world, the amount of stress that I was experiencing. And one of the things that I noticed is that the words that I was using was actually causing me more anxiety. I would use things like, I need to do this. I have to do this. I must do this, right? I should do these. And these are these words they're trap words. And by using these words, what I was doing is I was creating an unreasonable expectation of what, my actions, quote unquote, should be. And so when I say things like, I need to do this, what that really means is that whatever I'm doing is not good enough. You should do something. What that means is that whatever you're doing, not good enough.
Yep.
Right? And so whether you're referring to your own actions using those words or whether you're telling someone else to do something, just changing those words for me was a game changer. It's a game changer. And instead of saying that, I'd say things like, what if I were to do this, and it frames it in a much more positive light and says, this is an opportunity. Let's take advantage of this. And by just making that small change, I can't even tell you, it was like a weight, an invisible weight that was on my shoulders, just got lifted off. And I came to him the next day and I was like, Nick, you literally just transformed my communication. You literally transformed it. Every single day I think about the use of those words. And as a result of that, I now live a less stressful life. That's just one of many things that, he's taught me, and one of many things that I've actually improved by focusing on the actual problem at hand.
It's also giving you power to be affected by people less who have expectations on you. And when people have told you, you should be doing this, Cyrus, or you need to be doing this, you now have the compassion, the awareness to understand they actually don't know what they're telling you. They don't really know they're judging you. They don't really know that they're making you feel bad. But the fact that you know that gives you power over their words, and it gives you power over your own life. And I remember you saying, like, this is it. Like, this is it. Like, this is the best thing you've ever taught me, and it changed my life in a moment.
People tell me things like, you need to do this. You should do this. And I turn to them and I say, great, thanks for your opinion. I appreciate it, right? It doesn't, I don't hold it with such weight like, oh, if I don't do this, then bad things are going to happen to me, right? And so it allows me to release a lot of those previous feelings that I had that were like confining me and stressing me out.
Yeah. Everyone knows what everyone else should do.
Right, exactly.
I don't know too many people that know what they should do.
Amen to that.
Cool. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at two clients I've worked with, and I'm going to talk about kind of their before, during, and after of the process of going through that stress management framework and some of the stuff Cyrus was just talking about. So Katie here. Katie's probably, I'd say Katie's my masterpiece. She's her own masterpiece, is better said. Katie came to me a couple years ago, and she came to one of my yoga classes and was actually literally in tears at the end of a yoga class. And I usually don't walk up to people and ask them to work with me. I usually let it be a little more organic. And I just said, here's my card. Feel free to give me a call if you need some help. It just looks like you need someone to talk to. Within an hour, she called me up, and we met for lunch and we talked. And Katie was super stressed. She had no balance in her life. For work, there was no work-life balance. There was just work. She felt like she was overweight. She had a really tough relationship with food and with emotional eating. Yep. Probably one of the I don't want to use the word worst, but it was tougher. It was running her life. It was driving the bus of her life. She was also in a relationship with someone that she wasn't really wildly excited about. Sat with Katie, put her through my stress management program. We got her to reduce her stress. We got her to discover some of the main blocks. So we kind of went to that framework of, okay, what's your stress response? What's it telling you? What are you going to do about it? Real basic, And then we asked her to start to create a different way of being, a different way of living. 2 years later, I see Katie. It's like I'm looking at a different person.
Right.
She's got less stress. She's got more joy. She's now engaged. And she's engaged to the same guy that she was not super excited about. Once she was able to love herself, she found she was able to love him 10 times more. Pretty beautiful to watch. She's living in her purpose. And I think the most impressive thing with Katie is she's down about 20, 30 pounds, and she is no longer controlled by her eating. She was big into paleo and CrossFit, and it was driving the bus of her life. And we've gotten her to now take control over her eating. And if she wants to have a cheat meal, she can, and she can do it in a way because it's not doing what she should do.
Right.
She's doing what she wants to do. And she's vibrant. People are constantly asking her what she's done differently. It's hard to put into words what I've seen this woman transform. And it's all because she was willing to be aware and have choice and take action into changes she really wanted to make.
Yeah, it's actually this whole emotional eating thing is actually really interesting because, in the Mastering Diabetes program, and what a lot of people on this webinar are doing right now is they're changing the foods they're putting into their mouth, right? And as a result of that, hopefully a lot of people are seeing a lot of positive change. Easier time controlling their blood glucose, less need for insulin, less need for oral medication, losing weight, feeling more energy. See this over and over again, which is great. But in that process, even then, you change the foods. You're not necessarily eating chicken and fish anymore. Now you're eating more fruits and vegetables. That doesn't solve the entire problem, right? It can solve a lot of the metabolic issues that are happening under the surface. But when it comes to the mental game and the mental aspect of actually, eating according to a reasonable schedule and not necessarily overeating and not necessarily becoming neurotic about food preparation and where you're going to eat next.
Yep.
That's a whole different game that I will readily admit I'm not a master of at all.
Sure.
And so I think that this being able to really talk to the emotional eating aspect of things is something that we see over and over and over again. I know there's a lot of people on this webinar that find themselves eating in response to their emotions.
We go back to what I said to start this webinar. It's about your relationship to the thing.
Right.
And I've seen that, you've seen that, we've both probably been there with the neurotic eating too. There's a fine line between being healthy and being neurotic, especially when it comes to nutrition.
Right.
That's the relationship part we're talking about. We're striving for balance. We're not striving to be controlled by having to eat 15 mangoes a day, right? Unless you want to do that, unless that's what gets you out of bed in the morning, like you.
Don't judge.
Don't judge it. So yeah, it's at the end of the day, it's your relationship to it that's your work. And emotional eating comes down to either you feel like you're not good enough, or you feel like you can't ever get full emotionally, physically, whatever it is for you. So you replace it with food, and you replace it with control, right? It's about your relationship to it. So be willing to dive in there and take a look and be honest with yourself. That's the beginning of change right there. Cool. Let's take a look at one more. Take a look at one more client here that I've worked with. Allison's a really cool case too. She came to me she was a VP at Visa, and probably about, I'd say Allison was probably 20 to 30 pounds overweight. She had a pretty heavy drinking habit, super high stress. You could just see it on her face at all times. She's a great person, super emotional. I love her. She's like my sister. Before she came to me, like I said, stressed, no work-life balance, no relationship to eating, didn't know how to eat healthy, didn't know how to take care of herself. With Allison, we used a little different approach. It was a little harder with Allison. Kind of told her what to do a little more because she needed it. Really focused on her nutrition, really focused on her relationship to food, and really also focused on her relationship to drinking. Just by changing her diet and reducing her drinking, Allison was able to lose over 20 pounds without exercise. She ended up quitting her corporate job. She moved to Spain, sold everything she owned, and now she actually lives in Spain as a VP for another company. One of the biggest things with Allison I see is that she said no to fear, and I've got that as an acronym there. Do you know what that acronym is? Have you used it before?
I don't.
So fear, I like to look at it as false evidence appearing real. Okay?
False evidence appearing real. Got it.
So this isn't danger. This is mind stuff that says, oh, if I don't go into work today, I'm going to get fired. If I get fired, no one's going to love me. I'm going to be evicted out of my house. I'm going to be a loser, right? That's fear. So we got Allison to improve her relationship to herself, and as a result, she was able to reduce her fear. These false things that are in her mind that she thought were real, she was able to see they weren't and able to take control of her life. Super cool to see the transformations that she had. She's vibrant now and healthy. It's really awesome.
That's great.
Yeah. Cool. You want to recap the keys to stress management?
I'd love to. Okay, so here's a quick recap of what we just went over here. Number one, first and foremost, stress is not your enemy. You may have been told over and over again, the goal is to maintain a stress-free life. That is not the truth. The goal is to reduce your stress level and understand where it is coming from so that you can become friends with it. Awareness, that's a huge, huge part of this game. Understanding where's your stress coming from, and then choosing to act, choosing to respond a certain way to it. That is what transforms your approach. It's not necessarily about treating stress like a redheaded stepchild, like you're just going to try and get rid of it, right? Because stress is always going to be there. And, you might get rid of a stress today, but a new one's going to present itself tomorrow. Okay. And third, this definitely takes work. There's no question about it, right? You can't just sit here and expect that somebody else is going to fix your stress-related problems for you. There is a clear path to getting less stress and getting more control over your stress, but you got to be willing to put in the work. And if so, then there's no question that you can make it work. So, okay, here's a question. Do you guys want to hear about Nick's program? This is a program that he's worked on for years, and it's an incredible program. And if you guys would like to hear about it, we'd love to teach you about it, or we'd love to tell you about it and see if it's something that you guys want to get involved in. I'm just going to go here, check see what's happening. So we got some yes, sure, yes. Yes, I am a redheaded stepchild from Michael.
We love you, Michael.
Don't worry, I'm not trying to get ready. He's like, no, really, I am redheaded. Okay, Debbie, yes. Sandy, yes. Natalie, yes. Carol, sure. Awesome. Marlene, sure. Sweet. Okay, cool. All right, I'm going to go back to screen share here. Here we go. 1 second. Okay. I can't figure out how to use this software. Okay, here we go. One more time. This one. Man, that was a lot of clicks.
That's great.
Okay, here we go.
Cool, guys. So I'll tell you about the stress management and meditation group program that I've been working on for about the last probably about 10 years. It's going to look very similar to Cyrus's program. It's kind of a mirror of Cyrus's program. So if you're in there, you'll be pretty familiar with this already. I'll briefly jump over the 3 modules. It's a 3-step process. Each module is 5 weeks long. Module 1 is about stress reduction, and it's really about calming the noise and reducing the fluctuations of your mind, getting you to just to feel good and whole and grounded in yourself. Okay. Step two is about self-discovery, developing some patience, and starting to dive in there and starting to ask yourself the question of, who am I? Why am I here? and what do I want to do with my life? I find that you can't just dive into self-discovery if there's too much noise in the mind. It takes a little while to calm at first. And then module 3 is my personal favorite. And module 3 is all about going out and creating and manifesting things that you've determined that you want. Now, this is purposely in this training because I feel like if this wasn't in here, the training would fall short. I don't want to just help you reduce and discover and then leave you out to dry and not be able to create. So for me, this is where all of yoga and mindfulness and meditation actually ends up, is in the creation portion of how do I want my life to look? Okay, now let's go out and let's take action. Let's go do it. And you can start to see these things all start to intersect already.
And I mean, I can speak from personal experience here. This module 3, creating and manifesting, is so powerful. It is so powerful. It's not even funny. When you really have a handle on, what it is that you want to do in this life and, the direction that you want to move, understanding the tool set that enables you to create and move forward and manifest, which, I don't know the definition of it, but it means my understanding is to
create. I think it's create awesome shit. I think that's how the yogis define manifestation.
I love it.
Guys, if you don't like swearing, don't sign up for the program, by the way.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So this is a very important part of this whole process for sure.
Cool. So let's take a look at the online program. Again, it's going to be a little similar to Sciences in the way it's set up. So it comes with 16 weeks of online built courses. And each week is going to have a different lesson, a different training. And let's go step by step through those weeks. So module 1, stress reduction. You're going to learn how to meditate. I'm big on this, is getting rid of all of the fluff around meditation and really learning how to use it as a tool. Lesson 2, I'm going to give you a different stress management framework than the one I offered today. Okay. Lesson 3, this is about letting go of the past. And for me, letting go of the past is one of the most powerful things you can do in terms of stress management. We try to operate presently from the past, and then we wonder why things don't work. We try to operate from the future now, and then we wonder why things don't work. In order to move forward and create lives we want, we got to let go of the past. There's an awesome story that I share in this training about my mom and seeing her transformations in there. And it's just amazing to see what someone can do if they choose to let go and move forward. Lesson 4 is Cyrus's favorite lesson. That's the changing your vocabulary and getting rid of limiting beliefs.
It's definitely something you should do.
Whenever Cyrus sends me the word should, he puts it in quotations now.
Right, because I recognize it.
And then lesson 5 is about energy management. Energy management is key to health. It's key to creation because you're going to need more energy to do more. So that's where we're going to start to go with towards the end of the first module. Okay. As we jump into module 2, we're going to take a look at developing patience, understanding that where you are in your life is right where you're supposed to be, removing expectations, and getting off your own back, really. Okay. Lesson 7, week 7 in the module is going to go into how to identify specific stressors. Did you ever do the stress diary with me or no?
I did.
That one's wild, right? You're going to literally walk around for a week and take a diary of all the things that cause you stress. It doesn't take too long to get sick of that activity.
No, because you realize a lot of things got to be stressed.
All right, lesson 8, it's all about the 5 blocks that we all share in our lives that get in the way of our own happiness and our own joy. Lesson 9, one of my favorites, it's called identifying the gap. How do we get you from where you are to where you want to go quicker and also discover what's in the way? Okay. Lesson 10, that's all about discovering who you are and why you're here and what you want to do about it. Okay, almost done with this. This is the last module. This will be module 3. This will be around week 11. So now I'm going to start to give you frameworks into how to go out and create. We'll talk about how to give 100% effort and have non-attachments to your results. Lesson 12, mind mapping. We're going to get your mind down on a piece of paper so you can start to put your thoughts into the physical world. That right there is a master trick that you can do. Write down your thoughts. Write down what you want. They'll happen quicker. Okay. 13, I'm going to teach you how to set goals using SMART goals. 14, I'm going to give you my manifestation framework. And 15, it's going to be all about you taking control of your own life and stepping out of the world and taking action. Okay? So that's the general overview of the online program.
It's a lot of stuff. This one here, lesson 11, effort and non-attachment. Non-attachment, I think, maybe some of you guys have heard of this before, but not necessarily attaching to physical objects, not attaching to outcomes, not attaching to expectations that you create in your head and you don't verbalize.
Correct.
Woo, that's a big one.
Correct.
I remember when I learned this one, it was like, I didn't realize how many things I was actually attached to that were causing me sadness and frustration. And then once I realized that, I was able to detach from them, and wow, that weight came lifted off my shoulders big time.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're a fantastic person, Cyrus. You don't need anything in the world to tell you that, as long as you believe that. That's non-attachment. I still struggle with it 10 years down the road, by the way, too. So this is a lifelong practice. Cool. Okay. We're also going to get into, so each week in the course, there's going to be videos and audios in there that are going to teach you how to meditate and also teach you how to use breath work. Breath work is one of those tools that I was talking about. I want to provide you with a toolbox. The way that I teach breath work is like prescriptions. So if you are feeling stressed, there's specific breath works for that. So the reduced portion of the training has correlating breath works, right? Once you're not stressed and you want to go create, there's different breath works you can do to fire yourself up, create a little more heat, get a little more fiery, a little fire in the belly, right? So what I'll do each week is teach you a different type of breath work to use. At the end of the day, if you change your breath, you change your mind, you change your life.
I just got goosebumps.
That's the power of breath work. That's the power of this process, okay? You can also heal your mind, body, and spirit complex through breath work. I was telling you earlier, Cyrus, that I haven't been sick in 5 or 6 years.
That's true.
I think you're a little shocked to hear that.
Yep.
That's because yoga and meditation works.
Yeah, it's true.
The healthier you believe you are, your physical body responds. Just like we were saying before, it's connected. If the body can affect the mind can affect the body. It has to work both ways. Okay?
Absolutely.
Breath work is also about mastering your energy, guys. Okay. Also included every week, you're going to have outside homework, practices, frameworks, different activities to go and do, like a stress management diary, energy drains and gains diary, Cyrus's favorite one with the limiting beliefs, when you and Kylie had to walk around the house and put the words up all over the place.
Yep.
Right.
Post it on our fridge, post it on our bathroom window. Yep.
And then jokingly mess with each other when you use the word. So there's homework too. So it's going to be stuff to read, stuff to listen to, stuff to watch, and then stuff to do. It's a pretty cool mix. Okay. Besides that, in our Facebook group, just like in Cyrus's, there's going to be members-only content, blogs, articles, podcasts, question and answer. Whenever you have questions, me or my staff will be able to jump on there and answer questions. And to me, Cyrus, can you talk about the community portion here to get a different voice in? Because I know you've seen this work tremendously in your program.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, I think a lot of you guys are actually in our private Facebook group. And I think there's something like 260 people right now. And this program's only been around for 2 months. And one of the things that we see over and over again is that, a lot of people, it's human to think that whatever is affecting you is only affecting you, right? Oh, I just got this parking ticket. I'm so annoyed. I'm so pissed right now. Now I'm going to have to pay $67, whatever, right? You think that you're the only person that's ever experienced that in the moment that it happens. And then you go to the online community and you see other people talking about similar things. And instantly you're saying to yourself, oh, wait, you know what? I'm not the only person that feels that way, right? Yeah. Oh, I just remembered something. I'm human. Oh, I'm not perfect, right? There's other people that are going through the same thing as me. And once you start to realize that when you go through, a lifestyle change process and you do it in the community of other people, Robbie and I talk about this all the time. You surround yourself with people that are achieving, success, quote unquote success. You have no choice to achieve the same level of success. Right. Yeah. And so this community, we used to think of the community aspect as being something that was really cool and like a bonus. But now we realize that the community is required. And if it's not there, then you severely limit your ability to actually get to the next level. Very cool. Very cool. We're all human. Like I said before, no one's got the monopoly on pain. Yeah. That's the power of support. That's the power of community. Super cool. So that's the online group. You'll get access to that. And then in addition, the way this program is a little different is every week there's going to be a live group coaching call and a live group meditation. So we'll start the call every week
45-minute to an hour-long call with specific meditations for that week, probably depending on who's in the group. And then we'll have a live Q&A and coaching call after that. So that's where you get to ask questions of, okay, I'm having this issue with meditation. I'm getting hung up on this with the expectations or the frameworks. And I'll be there to answer not one-on-one, but whatever the small group is. To me, this is my favorite part of the program is small group coaching.
Oh yeah. Letting
people share, like you were saying before, develop more community. And this is where I really get to see you guys start to make shifts and put the rubber to the road. So that's gonna be every week in the group coaching stuff too.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right, so we're giving you everything that you need to take full control of your stress, emotions, and life using this system, and it's worked for hundreds of people already. And this is really one of the first times to be able to provide it as a group session and get it to you at a much cheaper price and much more accessible. So some warnings, Cyrus, that you've gone through?
Yeah. We got to warn you. You actually might become happier. This happens every time. Nick and I talk about this all the time. I asked him the other day, is there anybody that has gone through your system and not succeeded, and not improved in their mental health and their emotional response to, stimuli?
Mm-hmm.
And, he said flat out, yeah, the only people that don't benefit are the people that don't try.
Yep.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
If you try, it works. If you don't try, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right. So, I think the same thing holds true for, changing your nutrition, changing your movement patterns, right? We see people say this all the time. Oh, I'm failing at this. And it's like, nope. Are you trying? Okay. If you're trying, you're not failing.
Correct.
You're always making incremental progress, even though it might not feel that way.
Correct.
So this is a perfect example of a program that's specifically designed to actually work, and it works so well, but you just gotta, like we said earlier, you just gotta put in the work and just watch as it unfolds in front of you.
I gotta say this all the time. The two ingredients to success is you gotta be willing to show up, and two, you gotta be willing to put in the work. It's just like anything else. Nutrition, life, work, it's all the same. Cool. Who's the program for? It's for working professionals. If you got high stress, if you're struggling to control your emotions, your emotional eating specifically, looking for a different way. It's also for caregivers, anyone like in the health and wellness industry, nurses, wellness professionals. Like I said, we all tend to take care of others more than our own selves. There's fantastic tools in there. If you tried other stuff, didn't work, probably give this a shot too. And it's also for anyone out there who's already going through another program with me and just wants some more support and some more resources. Like Cyrus is saying, I'm not looking for everyone in this program. You got to be willing to show up. You got to be willing to put in the work. I don't allow people to make excuses.
It's big.
I don't want people to show up that aren't ready to put in the work. If you're not ready, that's fine. That's the compassion piece. Do it on your own time. But if you're not ready to transform, if you're not ready to put in the work, don't waste your money. Don't waste our time. Don't waste your effort. And it's all good. It's all perfect on that. So you're only looking for someone that's 100% in. If you put in the work, if you put in the time, you put in the effort, you'll reduce your stress. You'll have more joy. Your life will improve. I guarantee that. Cool. There we go.
Yeah. Now, okay. So Nick has this thing called a Discover Your Path to Freedom session. So what that means is basically if you sign up for his program within the next 48 hours, he will give you a free one-on-one session, which is valued at $225. And so in this one-on-one session, you get to sit down and communicate with him via video conference, and he'll ask you, he'll lead you through a series of questions that is truly focused on you. And when you have this opportunity to spend the time with him and really delve really deep into, your stressors and how you can, move forward, it's a very, very powerful session.
Yeah, and that one will spend time discovering the gap. Where are you now? Where do you want to go? What's in the way? And what are the immediate steps that you need to take in order to start to make massive shifts right now? I love doing those sessions. So if you sign up for the next 48 hours, I'll throw that one in for free. And the $225 is my regular one-on-one coaching rate.
Yep.
So you'll get that for free. Cool. Also, if you sign up with a friend, go ahead and throw each of you an extra free month of group coaching on the 5th month. So that's a $300 value each.
Mm-hmm.
If you sign up with a friend, a partner, your spouse, give you guys each another extra free month of group coaching on the 5th month there.
Both for both people.
Correct. Absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
That's huge. That's a big deal.
Yep. Cool. All right, guys. So usually I run this program at $299 a month. But for this group, Cyrus's group, my students on there at the same time, can offer it at $149 a month. It's a minimum 4-month program. So usually the program costs $1,200. For everyone on the webinar, it's only going to be $600 spaced out over 4 months. If you go click in that link that's in the chat box right now, it'll take you right to there. There's a sales page. There's also reviews and testimonials from all my students that I've worked with. There's also a link in there if you want to pay up front. It's discounted even more. I think it's another 15% discount if you want to pay up front. It'll bring it almost down to $500 for the whole program. That's pretty much what it costs to have 2 private an entire program.
Yeah, and that's actually a big deal because working with Nick is no joke. It really is. I mean, it's so powerful. It's really effective. So if you guys are interested in participating in this offer, I highly recommend it. I wish I got that kind of pricing when I signed up for your program. You didn't even offer that to me. Jerk. So you'll see that there's an offer that pops up here. If you guys are interested, again, this is not for everybody. This is not for everybody. If you find that there's something in your life that that is holding you back, right? Is it emotional eating? Is it stress that's related to your work? Is it stress related to your own health, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of you guys are living with diabetes, and we wanted to hold this webinar specifically for people with diabetes because diabetes can be very stressful. Mm-hmm. Period. I've been there, right? He hasn't been there because he doesn't have diabetes. But if you are anxious, if you are nervous, if you are sort of experiencing a level of stress related to your health, there's nobody better. There's nobody better than this guy. I mean, he's in corporate sales. He totally understands it. Point being is that this whole program is designed to really sort of like transform your whole approach. Mm-hmm. And, I can personally attest to it. And I've seen the transformations that he's talking about on his testimonials, and then also, gone to some other sessions where I got to meet some of his clients. And it's just like, it's really cool to talk to people and see, everybody has something that's like slightly different.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
About, like, oh, I'm trying to, I travel a lot for work and I just don't give myself enough time. Or, oh, I'm in a stressful relationship, and as a result of that, it's causing me to, develop unhealthy communication problems. Like I stopped exercising because, I'm commuting, right? So everybody has their own reason for wanting to, get full control over the stress. And it's amazing that you can come with like 1,000 different reasons. Yep. But if you apply the right methodology, the methodology is actually what takes you from a point of being stressed to a place where you have a lot of relief from that stress.
100%. Because like you said to start this training, it's not about the thing. We've all got different manifestations of stress.
It's not about the thing.
But it all comes back to ourselves and our relationship to it. If I can teach you that, then you can master your stress, because at that point it doesn't matter what the thing is. You've already got the tools to do it. Cool.
So let's go to some questions here. You guys got a ton of questions, so we'll just kind of start going through them. Jill asked a question here. She says, Nick, do you find that your program is helpful for such people like myself that deal with panic attacks and anxiety? What do you think? Yes? No?
Yeah. Yeah. That's where the reduced portion of the training starts off, by the way. And that's why it almost feels like my duty as a teacher to involve that into the training. It's because I don't want to take people into a discovery portion or to a creation portion until they're feeling safe, until they're feeling sound, until they're feeling connected to themselves. So the first whole 5 or 6 weeks of the program is all about reducing stress, reducing anxiety. And again, that includes specific breath works on how to do that, and specific meditations on how to do that also. So absolutely. Now, if you've got super high levels of stress and anxiety, I'd probably want to talk to you one-on-one and just kind of get a gauge for where you are. Sometimes if the stress and anxiety is too high, then we actually might not want to go into meditation because it can be a little too intense. But absolutely. There's specific breath works, for example, like belly breathing, which is actually going to stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system. That's in the training. You learn that in the first couple of weeks. Is that Jill? Any other questions on that, Jill?
Yeah, Jill, if you have more questions, feel free to type them into the chat box. Mm-hmm. And we're also, in the Q&A section, I love to make it so that we can hear you. So if you, want to talk, I'll find some button I can push here that allows you to talk. Just let us know. Mm-hmm. Karen asked a question, would this program be helpful if you have self-confidence problems?
Yes. And the reason, I'll tell you why the reason on that. That comes back to the reduced portion of the training, where we're going to spend 5 weeks turning inward, and we're going to take time to get confident and get grounded. What I find a lot of times, and I find this a lot in my female clients, is that they lack self-confidence, and as a result, they're running around the world trying to please everyone, or they're trying to take care of everyone else, or whatever it is for them. The quicker we can get them to see that they're whole, a big part of what I teach people is that we're all perfect. I think we've all forgotten that, and that's why we get in trouble. So I'm not here to try to fix anybody. My shtick, my angle isn't that we need to fix you. My angle is that you're already perfect, you're already whole, but that we've all just forgotten that, and that our work is remembering that we're okay. Our work is remembering that our lives are good. So that's where the self-confidence piece is. It's actually paramount to a spiritual path. It's paramount to reducing stress and anxiety. The more confident you are in yourself, the less you care about the external world.
Right.
Here's where we get in trouble, Cyrus.
Totally.
Our world is transient, meaning the external world is constantly changing. Work goes up and down, relationships go up and down, life goes up and down. It just is what it is. The quicker we can see that life is transient, and the quicker we can get off of that roller coaster and say, okay, I'm whole, my spirit, my being, whatever works for you, that isn't transient, right? So what I'll do in this program is teach you how to get in touch with that and say, wow, I'm a whole person. Spirit's not transient. My thoughts, they are, but that's not who I am. So a big part of this training is getting you to see that you're whole, get you grounded, get you feeling good. So absolutely, it's for anyone dealing with some stress, some confidence issues. Yeah.
There's a couple of questions here about logistics. Are the live coaching sessions during the day or in the evening, and what day of the week? Have you already figured that out?
Yeah. So the group coaching programs are 12 o'clock Pacific time on Fridays, but they're also going to be recorded, and those will be held in the community Facebook group. So even if you miss the group call, you'll still have access to the meditations and the Q&A.
And it's just Matt, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, suppose you get 10 people registering for this, and the overwhelming consensus is, hey, middle of the day is not going to work. Is that a call that can be moved to a different time, or is that like set in stone?
It's pretty much, it'd be set in stone, because as the program grows, it'd be harder to logistically move that.
Okay.
And also, I will say this, a big portion of stress management, and especially if anyone out there is addicted to their job, learning to take 45 minutes out from your lunch break to go take care of yourself is a powerful tool.
So true.
Okay? I'll go back to Katie, who I worked with, and I gave you an example of. I couldn't get Katie to take 5 minutes off from work when we started working, so I actually used to have to meet her at like 7 or 8 o'clock at night in order to meet her. Finally, I said, you know what, Katie? You and I are going to do over-the-phone calls during work. And what this did was, this was the first time in maybe 2 years that Katie actually took a break during the day to go eat lunch. She was able to see that she wasn't as important as she thought she was, and that her company wasn't going to burn down if she took 5 minutes to go take care of herself. So I think there's great power in having a set time, and people need to figure out how they can make that work. Like we said before, you got to be willing to show up, right? Now, if you can't make that happen, then you can contact me about individual sessions and individual programs. But that's the power of having a time about the community and being willing to change your schedule in order to show up for yourself. What are you willing to do? Are you willing to give it to yourself?
Yep. Okay. There's a couple other really good questions here coming in. Somebody's asking, let's see here. Karen, may seem a little out of left field, but any chance this would help in managing anxiety for a fearful flyer? So it sounds like she kind of gets a little nervous about turbulence. I think this is actually it's a perfect use case if you think about it, right?
Yeah,
because
totally.
What you're identifying is there's a stressor and there's a response to the stressor. The stressor is turbulence. The stressor is I'm fearful of flying, and then the response to that is, I don't know what the response is. Maybe you get locked down, maybe you get nervous, maybe you can't sleep, maybe you get super anxious, right?
Correct.
This is a perfect case in point where it's something that's very obvious that has a very obvious reaction to it.
Yeah.
Right.
And normal.
And totally normal, right?
My girlfriend has debilitating fear of flying. I have to
Ah.
hold her when she flies. This is where some of the breathwork stuff comes into play, by the way. When we learn to control our breath, what we're doing is we're telling our parasympathetic nervous system that we're okay and that we're safe. When you're in stress, when you're in anxiety, you're in sympathetic nervous system. So you can control your stress response. You can learn how to do that. So absolutely. I'm also a big fan of wine or scotch as tools to reduce fear of turbulence and flying. So
you didn't say that.
there's no judgment. Whatever tool you need to use, that's what you go for. So if that means we got to teach you how to do some breath work and have a glass of wine on a plane, if that's going to work, that's what we're going to go with. So absolutely. Turbulence is a fantastic example, Cyrus. So thanks for adding in on that.
Yeah, for sure. Susie asked a question, said, what if you are scared to uncover this stuff? That's a phenomenal question. What do you think?
I can't answer that question for you, to tell you the truth. That is really, are you ready? Are you willing to show up? And if you're not, that's totally perfect and that's fine. Because taking a look inward, calming this noise in your mind is going to allow you to hear and see things that you may not have been willing to look at before. Okay, but just knowing that there's stuff there, that's already a sign that you're moving towards that direction. Because you're not just in a space that says, oh, I'm fine, everything's okay. You're kind of in the next step of, I know I'm not okay, there's things I want to work on, but I don't know if I'm quite ready yet. Mm-hmm. Where we'd want to get you is to the next layer of that pyramid of, I know I have things I want to work on, and I'm ready. Okay, so that's your work, that's your shift. I can share from my own experience that I've had hard times. I've had struggles along a spiritual path. I've had ups and I've had downs. And as my teacher says, you got to have spiritual chops at some point. You got to have some toughness in you that's willing to go through and take an honest look. And I think that's why a lot of people get stuck, is because they're just not willing to take a look. So if you're willing, if you're ready, then I say yes. If you're not, then you're not ready. Do some work and come back when you are. And it's all perfect.
Okay. Here's another question. Let's see who wrote this. This is from Teresa. She says, can this help people with attention deficit disorder, ADD? Trouble with focusing, breaking things down, getting things done.
Yep.
Focus.
Yeah.
What's been your experience with that?
Yeah. You take a look at the meditation piece here then. Meditation is training your mind to stay focused on one object. At the beginning of the webinar, we joked about squirrel, right?
Right.
It's like email in today's world. It's like you're doing something, you're working, you're on a project, you get an email, you go, email, back to my project, right?
Mm-hmm.
Work for 5 minutes, email. This thing that could have taken you 20 minutes now took you 2 hours. Why? Because you weren't able to keep centerline focus into the present moment of what you're doing.
Right.
So a lot of what I teach people is present moment awareness, and that comes from being here in the room, okay? Some of this also might be Cyrus's world of nutrition, where learning to control your glucose can also help with ADD, right?
Oh, no question. No question. Yeah. One of the things we found is that when your blood glucose dominates your thought processes, it's really challenging to focus on anything else, period, right? Because you can feel the effects of the swings, the highs and lows, the highs and lows. You're on the roller coaster, and you just can't really focus on anything, whether you're trying to make a phone call, whether you're trying to do work, it doesn't matter. So step one is get control of your blood glucose. And once that's there, then great. Now that affords you an opportunity to pay attention to other aspects of your life that may have become, that were too challenging to begin with. I think, even in that process though, so suppose somebody, is going through the Mastering Diabetes program, they're finding a lot of relief, but still there's some ADD lingering, maybe there's something that's been going on for years. Right. And in this situation, it sounds like your program can definitely, help out. And
the Buddhism, they'll refer to us as having a monkey mind. Like our mind is literally like a monkey, and it's like a little kid. It just wants to go play, and it wants to be everywhere else except for here.
Right.
That's what meditation teaches you at the end of the day, is how do I be present? How do I be focused and present with what is, not with what I want or expect or what I assume, but actually with what's going on. That makes sense in meditation. Now I can do an hour. Just practice. That's all it is.
So Jesse has a question, says, Nick, what types of foods do you eat to keep you at ease? Is there anything in particular?
Yeah, right. One, I like herbal tea, actually.
Oh, interesting.
That's something I really like because to me, that's a ritual. That's something I can do to take time for myself. And I also like to use coconut oil.
Oh, really?
And I actually like to give myself coconut oil massages.
So you use coconut oil topically?
Correct.
You don't put it in your mouth?
Correct.
Yeah,
I do actually eat a lot of coconut oil, but also, so I use herbal tea.
Mm-hmm.
I use coconut oil as self-massage for self-care.
Mm-hmm.
I also love to eat smoothies in the morning. That to me is part of my ritual.
Got it.
Wake up in the morning and have a protein and fruit smoothie.
Mm-hmm.
What I find for that is that helps my energy, that helps my mood tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I look at everything like a self-care practice.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can find food that's healthy, that's whole, that's organic, if I put that into my body, that's just me saying, hey, you're worth it. You deserve this. Fill yourself up from the inside out. That's actually, when you look at week 5 of the energy drains and gains, that's what I talk about in that module is how do you fill yourself up from the inside out so that your energy begins to overflow into the world. A big part of that is nutrition and getting a ton of fruits and veggies.
This is great.
Mm-hmm.
Karen says, I believe you mentioned an option to pay up front for $500. I'm not seeing that online. Find a follow-up after the webinar if that's better. Okay, so Karen, I'm going to take full responsibility for that. If that option isn't showing up on the checkout page, the option will still be there, right? So we'll fix that for you. And if you're interested in signing up for $500, if it's a single pay, then that's totally cool. So apologies for that snafu.
Perfect.
Okay, here's another question. So much good info. What do you think, for those that can't afford the program, is the one thing we should start with, could start with?
Let you handle that one, Cyrus.
The thing we can hold on to that will be the biggest tool to start with. Okay, I'll take a stab at this one here. You cannot fix or treat a condition, a problem, a stressor, if you don't know what it is. Period. End of story. So the first step of this process, and it may seem like, oh, this is so basic, right? But it's actually very, very, it's fundamental and really starting the whole stress management process. So you got to figure out, you got to clearly define what it is that stresses you out. It could be one thing. It could be two things. It could be 17 things. I would spend, I kid you not, a week figuring this out, right? Write it down on a piece of paper, right? These are the things that stress me out, and then rank order them. Right. The thing that stresses me out the most is the fact that I have to sit in traffic for an hour and a half on my way to work. It pisses me off.
And then what do you want to do about it?
What do you want to do about that?
Can you accept it? Do you need to change it? All that stuff.
Right.
Let me tell a quick story about this too, because this actually hits my heart quite heavily when I hear people talk about price and not being able to afford coaching. This is actually how I got into coaching, Cyrus, is by not being able to afford it.
How so?
Explain the story. So about 5 or 6 years ago, I was at a pretty low point. I was broke. I was just trying to figure myself out. And I felt like I knew that what I was doing with my career and my life wasn't what I wanted to do, but I had this wall of fog over me. And I knew there was something on the other side of this wall that was like, once I got there, my life was going to be better. But I couldn't see it, and I just felt like I was pounding my head against the wall. This is before we went like mentors. And I said, Pete, I need help. I know that where I am is supposed to, I just can't see it. Man, let's go ahead and we'll sit down. We'll do a one-on-one. We'll try to go through this. So we met. Coach, we're going to work once a week for a couple months. Then we'll move to, a couple times a week, or a couple times a month after that. I'm like, great, sign me up. He goes, my rate's $200 an hour. And I look at Pete and I'm like, I can't afford that, man. And he just looked at me and said, that's great. He said, when you have the money, when you're ready to do whatever you need to do to work with me, I'm here. What I learned in that moment, Cyrus, was that this guy knew his worth, he knew his value, and he wasn't actually willing to change his worth to work with me. He put that on me to go figure out. Now my rates are actually higher than Pete's. But without Pete giving me that lesson about he pretty much said, what are you willing to go do to make a change?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Money's just energy, guys, by the way. It's just an energy exchange. It's just money. One of my teachers, I go to sit with him. He charges me $1,000 a day to sit with him. Okay. And he always says, I don't negotiate pricing because if you want to work with me, you'll figure it out.
You'll find it.
And that teaches me a hell of a lot about myself every time I go and have to give him $1,000 in cash.
Mm-hmm.
So
Stephanie writes here, I paid $2,400 for a life coach who helped me immensely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, sometimes, rather than focusing on the amount of money that it costs, think about, just forget about the money. Just forget about it. What are you going to gain from the process? What is the value? What does the end of the road look like, right? What's going to happen to you if you can figure out that money situation? And
I also like to ask myself and other people the question of, what's the price of staying where you are?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Sometimes that price you might not be willing to pay anymore. And that's what I find when people are ready to change. When you say, I'm no longer willing to stay where I am, no matter what it costs, that's the moment when your life shifts. I've been there. You've been there. Sounds like Stephanie's been there too.
This is a phenomenal question. Chris writes, one of my worst stressors is fear that I will not be able to complete this program because it has happened to me many times before. I'm overwhelmed with work and with life in general. I really want to do this, but I'm afraid. Mm-hmm. Chris, if you're still here, thank you for saying this, by the way, because you're being vulnerable and we totally appreciate that. What do you think in this situation?
Well, I'm going to swear. Fuck fear, Chris. Okay? Don't let fear run your life. Don't let fear of the unknown of the future control what you do in this moment. Okay? Maybe you do 1 week, who knows? I'm just throwing it out there. You do 1 week, 2 weeks of this, and you go, whoa, I got my money's worth, and I got all the changes I need. So what I'm saying is, don't worry about the future. Just worry about this moment. In this moment, is this something you want to do? In this moment, are you willing to make some changes and show up for yourself? If you are, then dive in there, okay? One of my private clients who's got major money stuff, she makes about 50 grand a year, but she pays me $700 a month to work with me, right? Mm-hmm. She always talks about money and she goes, I can't afford this, I can't afford that. And I go, Christy, you pay me every month $700. Every time she pays me, she is telling herself, I'm worth it. I'm not going to live in fear of my money stuff that was given to me from my parents. I'm going to show up to make big changes, and I'm worth it. And I have to remind her this all the time. And she's the anomaly of someone that's actually going to sit one-on-one and pay a lot of money. And so, Chris, my point to you is, if you're ready, don't let fear run your life, man. It's not worth it. I've been there. Cyrus has been there. And that's one of the basis of what I teach people is live a life with less fear and more joy. As a result, you're going to get from where you are to where you want to be faster. Okay?
100%. Yeah. That's a great call. Yeah, I mean, this is fear can stop you from doing a lot of things.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
And it can be really challenging because that fear is real and it can feel crippling and it can really just like stop you from doing the things that you want to do. I've been there before, in sports. Mm-hmm. I've been afraid of a lot of things in my life, and I'm still afraid of things. There's no question about it. But Chris, in this situation, another thing to add into the puzzle here is that this guy is your accountability right here, right? Mm-hmm. So like you might think to yourself, oh well, I'll join the program and I'll start doing it, and then I'm just not going to follow through with it, right? Well, this accountability right here will do his best to make sure that you do follow through mm-hmm. and that you do continue to make incremental progress, right? And, if you sort of like surrender the process and allow someone like Nick to lead you to a better state of being and trust that he will do that, then all you have to do is basically, like you said, just show up, mm-hmm. literally just show up and allow the process, trust that this process is actually going to help and take that fear. And, it's okay to recognize it, but take that fear and just kind of like, just quiet it down and say, okay, the fear is present, but I'm not going to let that get in the way of what I'm actually trying to accomplish.
I think the most beautiful thing here, and this is, fear doesn't allow us to see reality, Chris. The fact that you're on this call, you stayed to the end, and you asked this question, that already says a lot about yourself, man.
Right.
Take that moment and just go, wow, I am actually showing up a lot more than I thought.
It's true. It's true. You're putting yourself out there already.
Big time.
Linda asked a question earlier in the webinar. She says, I feel like I'm always focused on food, and that frustrates me and affects me staying on the Mastering Diabetes program.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think she's speaking actually for a lot of people who are just focused on food,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we talk a lot about nutrition and making nutrition changes. So in that particular situation, if you run across somebody who is preoccupied with their food choices, what can be done in this particular situation?
Mm-hmm. It's the same thing as all the other stuff. It's the relationship to yourself, right? Is it you're trying to control food? Is it you're using food as a way to fill yourself up because you're not feeling satiated or worthy of love or respect, whatever it is? So you just figure out what is food actually representing? People use food, people use drugs, people use different addictions. They just manifest us. That's the food thing is. That's just how it's manifesting.
Mm-hmm.
Your work is, again, your relationship to yourself. I'm going to dive in there and take a look at it. And just like I've shown with Katie and with Allison, those case studies, they were in a very similar place, and they learned through self-work how to drive the bus. I like to use that analogy of who's driving the bus of your life. Is it you, or is it your food? Is it your food? Is it your diabetes that's making the calls, or is it you? I think if we can get ourselves to be in control 51% of the time, and then food or whatever our addiction is 49% of the time, we've already started to shift the scale, and then we've got momentum, and then we build from there. And remember, guys, you're not going to get good at this stuff overnight. There's probably a lot of high achievers on here because you guys are here for stress management. They go hand in hand. Cyrus and I are both high achievers with high stress, what we have. So you're not going to be great at it overnight. You're not going to master your relationship to food that's taken you 30 years to build overnight. It's going to take time.
Okay. Here's another question from Michael. This is previously in the webinar. I've heard, listening to Dan Siegel. You know who Dan Siegel is? I don't know who he is either, but I've heard that practicing mindfulness can make it become a trait unto itself. Can you please talk more about that? So it sounds like he's saying if you develop mindfulness, then that becomes a habit and a trait. Is that true? Is that something that people can expect?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a teacher of non-attachment and non-judgment, so I would never associate myself as meditation as a trait that I have. Mm-hmm. It's just something I do. It's a tool that I use to make my life better. Now, I personally couldn't imagine living without meditation now that I've been doing it for so long. The way I use meditation, and I would offer this to a lot of people, is you use it as a primer. You use it as a way to set yourself up for the day and also as a way to digest your day and come down from your day. And I think if you start saying that meditation is a trait, then you start to put yourself as like, I'm a meditator, Cyrus isn't a meditator, therefore we're separate, and we're putting labels on things. Mm-hmm. We're already getting into trouble if we start doing that. Then we start to get into judgment, then we start to get into attachment, expectations, all that kind of stuff. So if that's the way the question's coming from, then no. It does become a habit. One of the biggest things I've seen is I got into meditation for stress management. The longer I do it, I actually find that it's stress prevention. Because the more I am in control of myself, the less my stress builds up. It's a direct correlation. The more you're easily able to see, oh, I'm getting stressed. What do I need to do? Let me use this breath work. Okay, now I can bring my stress back down. So it becomes stress reduction. Also, one of the sustainable also, like your meditation will shift over. I would have to know more about that word, but I think it's a part.
Okay. Question box here. We have to get off this call in about 10 minutes. I said half.
We will be getting off this call.
We'll be getting off this call in 10 minutes. So if you guys have any more questions, please feel free to put them in the chat box because we're here to answer whatever questions you got. You guys got.
I like it.
Binge. Do you have any specific
binge eating? I like to binge eat. Yeah, I like to binge eat.
Joker.
I do. I like to binge eat and binge drink on the weekend once in a while. And what's the specific question about it?
The question is, if you find that you are a binge eater, like what's all that?
Okay. Don't judge it. That's the first thing. I'm talking from Cyrus's nutrition side. We're talking from my stress management side. Okay. Binge eat. Don't judge it. Just do it. Okay? But
Explain that more.
There's a difference because it's my habit. I binge eat because I'm out of control. To I binge eat occasionally because it's something I like to do for social fun, or to let loose, or to have some good food. There's a very, very big difference there.
Because one of them is a conscious decision,
Correct.
and one of them is a subconscious reaction.
Correct.
Got it.
This is where we get into awareness and choice.
Yes.
And your relationship to the thing.
Mm-hmm.
No one thing is good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like you would agree with me that one ice cream cone never gave anyone diabetes,
Mm-hmm.
right? But 1,000,
Right.
one every day,
Mm-hmm.
that's probably going to lead to issues, right? So it's our relationship to the thing and how we approach it. That helps. That's how I would approach it. Yeah. Plant-based organic ice cream.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's all types of plant-based ice cream, coconut ice cream, tofu ice cream, you name it.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. So Chris just signed up for the program. That's great.
Cool.
Phenomenal, Chris. We'll email you the directions on how to, get registered, or sorry, how to, get into the program and get all access to all the tools.
Cool.
Okay. So
Awesome, Chris.
yeah, this is gonna be a game changer for you, Chris. I'm actually pretty excited about this. All right. So if you guys have any more questions, let us know. If there's no more questions, then I guess we'll call it a day.
Cool.
I hope you guys have had a good time, sitting here listening to this whole process. The replay link will make that available within the next 24 hours, so you can watch the replay for sure. And again, if you sign up within the next 48 hours, explain the bonuses they get one more time.
Yeah, so the next 48 hours. So Chris, you and I will actually end up having a one-on-one phone call, about 45-minute call. I call it my Discover Your Path to Freedom session. What we'll do in that session is we will talk about where you are currently, where you want to go in your life. Then we'll take some time to identify the way. And then we're going to try to get you out of there with at least one or two strong action items that are going to allow you to start to make some massive shifts right away. So Chris will get that because he just signed up, but anyone in the next 48 hours will get a one-on-one, either phone call or video call with me, whatever it is that works for you.
All right. So there we go. Yes. Again, save 50% right now, free one-on-one session. Then if you sign up with a friend,
Get an extra 5th month for free.
you get a 5th month for free. That's huge. That's huge. That's a $300 value per person.
Cool.
Sorry, that's not true. It's a $150 value.
No, per person. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, this has been a lot of fun, guys. I've had a good time. We're looking forward to seeing you guys in this program. Chris says, fantastic. Karen says, thanks, guys. I do not have the ability to adjust my schedule. Friday is not possible. What can I do? Susie says.
Like I said, the group phone calls will be recorded and uploaded to the community thing. So you'll have the meditations. You'll have the access to Q&A. Also, the training itself is packed with audio, video, and how-tos for everything. Mm-hmm. So the training itself, just in the web portal, is actually more than enough to get the job done. So if you can't make those calls, I think you'll still be okay. And like I said, they will be they'll be recorded anyways.
Yeah, and Susie, let me talk to that too. We kind of have a similar situation with our our Jumpstart program, which is a video based program. Sometimes if you can't make the call, it's totally fine. Here's the thing: when you go to the call, it's your opportunity to ask questions and sort of learn in a small group format. But if that's not possible, then what you do is you go straight to the Facebook group and you say, okay, hey guys, I missed the call, but these are my questions, right? You watch the information because it's pre-recorded. It goes in the course, you watch that, and then you go to the Facebook group and you ask questions. At that point, you can get all of your questions answered. Mm-hmm. This guy will respond to your questions, and then the other people in the community will also help you out. So my suggestion would be don't let your schedule necessarily dictate whether or not you're going to, participate in the program, because the value of the program is much, much, much greater than just a scheduling conflict. That's all. Okay, great. Stephanie, love you guys. Thanks, Stephanie. This was awesome. Thank you for showing up. Pam, thank you. Be great to the program. I will try to make it work. Awesome, Pam. This was fantastic. thanks for showing up, guys.
Yeah, it was fun.
Super cool. And we'll see you next webinar.
Sounds good.
All right. See you guys.